It all started about in 2007. There was a small project starting up in Barco. Projectors were still using lamps, sometimes LED, but mostly lamps all over the place. And there was all these new concepts were flying around that a laser would be the ultimate light source for projectors, bringing many benefits, and there were a lot of promises. So a small project was started within Barco to explore all these promises.
This is the Box Office Podcast. I'm Daniel Loria, the editorial director of Box Office Pro, the pulse of theatrical exhibition. Here once again with my colleague and co-host Rebecca Pahle, deputy editor at Box Office Pro. And this week we are going to be going over all of the results from the box office last weekend, including the release of two new titles to hit the market: Madame Webb from Sony and Paramount's Bob Marley, One Love. Divergent results on two new releases. And this weekend, we don't have too many new movies coming out, but we will be going over the new releases scheduled for this week. And later on in the feature segment, in honor of the technical portion of the Academy Award ceremony, we will be talking to a trio of engineers from Barco Cinema who came together to bring and develop the technology that is responsible for RGB laser projection, a technical conversation about innovation and how the standards in movie-going keep on being raised. So don't forget to tune in for the second half of this episode for that conversation. But Rebecca, let's start the way we always start. Another weekend already well behind us. Did you get to go to the movies? Because we're now approaching late February, and unfortunately, we need to break this cold spell of us not going to the movies.
Dune is on the horizon. More movies is on the horizon. Like you mentioned, Daniel, this week not a lot came out. Last week, so instead of catching something new, Eric and I went out to the Museum of the Moving Image up in Queens, which is screening their snubbed series of, various films that should have gotten more award season attention than they did. But I caught Scorsese's New York with De Niro and Liza Minnelli. I think this is using the money and the goodwill and the cachet of Taxi Driver. He's like, I'm going to do an MGM style musical, but just, it's strange. I know you mentioned you haven't seen it, but if you think of it as like, oh, what would be an MGM movie? Big splashy musical, but with like a Martin Scorsese, Robert De Niro character in the middle. It's exactly how you think that's going to be, for better or worse.
That grim and dark.
There's some, Liza Minnelli is fantastic, but I've discovered if I'm going to watch some kind of a Star is Born musical type of thing, I kind of want to like the main character a little bit. And De Niro's scary in some of these scenes, man. He's great. The acting's all great.
He's extremely frightening in any role that Scorsese gives him. And I'm just going to go over a list of the Scorsese-De Niro collaborations, because Scorsese-De Niro is a rabbit hole that I feel we should definitely explore, because we run this podcast, and why not? Let's go ahead and do that. It's been a slow box office. This is how we're going to fill time. We have obviously Mean Streets starting the conversation in 1973.
And I only watched that for the first time actually fairly recently. And it's like you can tell right off the bat, this is going to be a love story for the ages, this Scorsese and this De Niro.
Well, I love how he introduces that horribly likable and also deeply dislikable character, which is, by the way, all of De Niro's characters in his collaborations with Scorsese.
But in New York, he's more just
straight up dislikable.
Just straight up an asshole.
Well, in 73, he gets introduced with the Rolling Stones' Jumpin' Jack Flash and that wonderful like Scorsese and the Stones collaborations that they do whenever he brings them into the soundtrack. That's the first glimpse you get to see of De Niro in a Scorsese movie. I think that sets him up wonderfully. That guy sucks. I mean, that character that he plays in Mean Streets, that dude sucks. Completely screws over the Harvey Keitel character. But there's something magnetic about his performance, right?
If this guy's your friend, you would definitely not want to hang around that guy in person. But yeah, so a lot of the best film characters are like that sometimes. Like, I would not want to know this character in person, but from afar.
From afar, it's fine. And then we just go straight to Maybe there's some redeeming qualities to Travis Bickle, who obviously is the main character in Taxi Driver, which is the next collaboration, 1976. And then Travis Bickle just turns out he's insane.
No,
He's just absolutely unhinged.
It's a horror movie, and if some people have done what they would later do with Fight Club and try to think of him as some kind of anti-hero to aspire to, that's on them.
Yeah, that's on them. That's in the world of dating red flags. How you read Taxi Driver is an easy test. But I love how Taxi Driver, the first third of
It's
Taxi
great.
Driver,
I love it.
It's a film noir. The first third is like a moody film noir. The second third with Sybil Shepherd, it's like a weird romantic comedy where you kind of want them to get together. And then the last third with like child prostitution with Jodie Foster and the pimp played by Harvey Keitel and just the Hell's Kitchen underworld and the shootout. It's a straight up horror movie. It just goes into the depths of hell by the end. And De Niro is, again, not redeemable. There is nothing redeeming about this character by the end of that movie. And then, of course, you mentioned this at the start. He follows that with the only collaboration I've never seen, by the way. I've never seen New York, New York. I've seen all the other collaborations. But apparently this is just like the worst character that De Niro plays in a Scorsese.
I mean, I don't know. Maybe, well, no, he doesn't murder anybody. So, he's not the worst. But like the opening scene is like a VJ Day celebration, and his character is just hitting on Liza Minnelli's character in a way that goes on like way too long. Like I've been in that situation, and like that ends in somebody getting murdered, and it's played off like the first 30 minutes are him like aggressively hitting on her even though she's not interested, and then like stalking her around the country. At one point he says the line, I wouldn't have to hurt you if you'd just come with me.
Oh no.
A lot of aggressive grabbing, and yeah.
Well, we go from that to just straight up like a man in the process of total self-destruction in Raging Bull in 1980, where there's actual scenes of domestic violence and just a horrible man.
It's the same character.
That's just wonderfully built by De Niro, who absolutely nails a performance of terrible men. And this typecasting that he's been able to sell throughout the decades. We follow that in 83 with The King of Comedy, which, a lovable misanthrope to a certain extent. But in the second half of King of Comedy, I think Rupert Pupkin, the protagonist, played by De Niro in this movie, goes from being lovable to being just straight up scary. You kind of don't want to be around this guy.
I've never seen this one. I have made it.
It's so good.
I have made it,
it's so
I think, maybe like 15, 20 minutes in, and then I was like, this is uncomfortable. This is uncomfortable.
Very much so.
I need to try it again. Definitely. It's insane that I've seen
well, after New York,
Joker,
you might want to wait a little bit.
King of Comedy, but...
Yeah, not the easiest one. And then we have to wait till 1990 when De Niro comes back playing a gangster role in Goodfellas. Again, a dislikable character, but not unhinged, at least.
Charismatic, very charismatic.
Charismatic, but still brooding and very violent. 1991, if you want unhinged, this one wins. Unhinged De Niro. Does it get more unhinged than 1991's Cape Fear?
Ooh.
That's a pulpy one.
He went off the deep end on that one, and God bless him for it.
Yeah, that's, again, a very menacing character. Him smoking a cigar in the back of that movie theater, cackling uncontrollably.
And it is, like, it's a very sleazy update on the original film. Like, it works within the context of the film, totally. Like, it's the closest Martin Scorsese will ever come to the cinematic masterpiece that is Wild Things. I joke, but
we'll
they're similar.
We'll save Wild Things for another time. I do love Wild Things.
Yes.
I don't even know the director. That's 1998, 99? Filmed at the rival high school of my high school in Miami. We'll get into that some other time. Then we've got 95 Casino. Again, a brooding mobster type guy.
I think he's simmered down. After Cape Fear a little bit.
The first scene is like, there's no spoiler here. It's the first scene. It's him like getting partially burned in a malfunctioning car bomb in Vegas in a strip mall. And like, again, the story just goes downhill for that character from there. From that, we have to wait until 2019 to maybe the saddest ending of any of these abusive men characters in the Scorsese filmography, The Irishman. And I didn't think you could hit a further nadir than what happens to Jake LaMotta at the end of Raging Bull, where he's just like overweight, half drunk, like half reciting bad rhymes in a comedy club. It gets worse in The Irishman. That's a sad.
And it works in part because it is building on the, De Niro Scorsese collaboration. That character, we've seen him before. We've seen him in different guises. So we kind of feel like we know him to a certain degree, even though he does, kill people.
But it's a brutal ending for that character.
Oh my God, it's
Brutal
rough.
ending.
None of his kids ever talking to him. He's going to die alone in a nursing home. Like, that's just depressing as hell.
Yeah, that final shot is haunting. And then talking about haunting, his supporting performance, for which he's nominated for an Academy Award this year in Killers of the Flower Moon, is great. Another dark, evil, brooding, not unhinged, but a very controlled rage that De Niro puts together in this role that Scorsese gave him. He does really, really well. I think it's the best performance in the film, actually.
Yeah. You know what? It reminds me of, it's a very John Huston in Chinatown.
Ooh, great call.
Because it's
yes.
I don't know how you're being so scary while still not raising your voice and being calm and all plausible deniability, but it's terrifying.
Terrifying. And that's our 10-minute appreciation of Robert De Niro roles in Martin Scorsese movies. We do have to talk about the current slate of films because we did have 2 new movies open at the box office. Divergent results here for Paramount's Bob Marley One Love and Sony's Madame Webb. Before we launch into Madame Webb, which is the bad news part of that coin, tell me you were keeping up with the train wreck that was star Dakota Johnson's I Don't Want to Be Here press tour for Madame Webb. It was astonishingly I don't want to be here-ness from the start.
Yeah, but in a way that I would rather have her style of I didn't want to be here-ness, we'll just, talk about it rather than the boring, I'm going to smile and give 3-word answers and then leave. She at least gave us some interesting stuff.
Oh, I'm not saying it was bad. I think it was one of the best things we can say about a movie that we probably won't be talking about.
And honestly, maybe it's
further.
The best thing that could have happened for Madame Webb, because according to the reviews and the Metacritic score and all that, it wasn't going to draw people in on word of mouth about how amazing it is. But maybe a notable marketing campaign might make some people curious.
Not enough people, as we saw from the opening weekend. Opening in second place to 15 million on the Monday-Friday range. Once we get into the estimates, including the President's Day holiday, we're looking at $23 million plus for Madame Webb. It is the lowest opening weekend on a 3-day basis for a female-led superhero movie. Now, let's be very clear here. That doesn't mean that this is a problem of female-led superhero movies. I think it's a problem of poorly made female-led superhero movies. Just because there are women in it doesn't mean the movie's any good. Doesn't mean that female audiences are like, oh my God, are you serious? There's a female superhero? Let's buy 18 tickets. No, the movie has to perform. I don't think anyone involved in this movie came off thinking that the final result was something to be proud of.
No, definitely not. But more on the ambiguous side of things, Bob Marley, One Love, a biopic, not in the traditional sense of Bob Marley. It follows one, kind of concrete period in his life when he's left Jamaica and then he goes back, and it triggers a very, decisive, important moment in his career. This is one, Daniel, that you can check out boxofficepro.com for an interview with the screenwriters. But I really kind of didn't know what to think about this one, because we have had over the last 2 years several high-profile biopics of musical legends that just kind of came and didn't do anything. I Want to Dance with Somebody, the Whitney Houston biopic. We had Jennifer Hudson in Respect, the Aretha Franklin biopic. But this one was able to overcome that, I don't want to say curse, because that's definitely overstating things, but it did boast the #1 midweek Valentine's Day opening ever, getting 14 million, around 3,500 screens. I mean, I feel like what the marketing was going for and what succeeded for them is, a message of love, and it's not too heavy. It's a very positive, affirming message from Bob Marley that I think appealed to people around Valentine's Day.
And it's not a bad result here, once again, from Paramount, which has a very lean slate this year, but is performing pretty well with mid-sized hits within the titles that they've had. Earlier this year, they came out with the musical adaptation of Mean Girls. That's already made $71 million in North America, chugging along. Sony, on the other hand, you see them struggling here with Madame Webb, with their Spider-Man cinematic universe, whatever they're calling it, that's really not been working out the way they wanted to. But meanwhile, Sony, you look back to last year, the week-over-week performance of a movie like A Man Called Otto. You look at them this year, the week-over-week performance of a movie like Anyone But You, which has now made nearly $85 million over 9 weeks at the box office. They know how to keep a movie that isn't built to be a blockbuster with steady legs. The issue with Sony right now is we're waiting for the blockbuster. You need both.
Yes.
They have the tough part of the equation. They've got down perfectly by this point. So it's tough to say. So I do think we're going to have to wait until late mid-March, when that Ghostbusters Afterlife sequel, Ghostbusters Frozen Empire, comes out. So we can see how Sony performs with a high-profile IP that maybe has a little bit more riding on it. I'm going to just scratch off Madame Webb. It was something that didn't work. Morbius didn't work either. Good luck to Kraven the Hunter, coming out in the dead zone that is kids coming back to school season in late August of the summer. Let's see how that works out. But there are other pieces in the puzzle of Sony's releases that doesn't make me want to ring the alarm just yet. I think they can figure out the tough releases like the Anyone But You's, like The Man Called Ottos. We just have to wait for the right high-profile IP to gauge their performance.
Yeah, I mean, and we're looking at them this upcoming year after Ghostbusters Frozen Empire. They have Garfield movie, or rather titled The Garfield Movie, coming out at the end of May. I mean, I feel like Chris Pratt in the lead role. This one feels like it could hit among child audiences. Then you have the yet untitled Bad Boys sequel, which seems like something that could generate some word of mouth, become that kind of moderate budget action film with legs. Of course, we're all just waiting for the third Miles Morales Spider-Verse movie, but we'll have to whenever they're wait. Done making it.
God knows how long for that to come out.
Yeah.
And looking forward to this weekend, Rebecca, not too many wide releases. The one that does jump out at me, taking half of the Coen brothers formula, which is just Coen brother, Ethan Coen, co-written by his partner Trisha Cook, is Drive Away Dolls. This is a title that I was very much looking forward to seeing last year. Focus Features ends up bumping this movie to this weekend, coming out February 23rd, because of the writer strike, the actor strike. It's finally hitting theaters. This is going to be the first time I pay for a ticket to see a movie in 2024. Woo! I've been to press screenings. That doesn't count,
no, it doesn't
right?
Count.
Because it's free. I mean, it's a different vibe. But as a ticket paying customer, finally, it took until the end of February to get me in there. Ethan Coen is enough of a reason to get me excited about anything. I'm looking forward to this one. I can't wait to see it.
Eric saw it. He enjoyed it. Do you know what the MacGuffin is in the film?
I know nothing about this film other than the little bit of footage that we saw at CinemaCon last year, which I think was a minute. I'm going in completely blind. Do I want to know what the MacGuffin is?
No, you want to experience it in real time.
Perfect. I'm looking forward.
But yeah, that's good. You're getting back into giving the movie theaters money. Though you did mention before we started recording, you're trying to get a PLF ticket for Dune too.
Well, I mentioned this is the first ticket I'm buying because I've been trying to buy an IMAX or Dolby Cinema ticket for Dune Part 2. I can't find one in New York City.
Yeah, anecdotally, we're hearing those pre-sales are nuts.
It's great news. I mean, it's wonderful to hear from so many of our colleagues here in the exhibition business that Dune 2 has been performing so well, especially these premium formats. I can't wait for that movie to open.
The press campaign of Zendaya wearing something amazingly, crazy.
Well, she had the Maria the robot costume from Fritz Lang's Metropolis. Except it had an exposed butt. If I remember correctly. That's what Zendaya went with. It's we're going to have a silver-plated Maria the robot with exposed butt. That's how she shows up to red carpets. I dig it, by the way.
It's called fashion.
It's called fashion. I think there should be more exposed butt robot costumes for both genders at all red carpets. Mm-hmm. That would get me more interested in red carpets. That's basically what we've got for the news segment here on this week's episode. But before we sign off, a couple of other bits and pieces in terms of goings on in the cinema market. Rebecca, Unique, the trade association representing European cinema, reporting a 24% box office growth across European territories, that's really good.
Yeah, and of course, that's an average across all of the territories. Some territories are going to see a stronger recovery from others. You look at Germany, for example, their year-on-year total admissions increased 19%, box office up 24%, France, a 19% increase in admissions since 2022, in the UK an 8.5% increase. So yeah, you can check out our website or that of Unique to see the more detailed information on how this breaks down. But yeah, 24% box office growth compared to last year, in a time when the strikes obviously were very Hollywood centric and it wouldn't necessarily have affected local productions overseas, but like it is all connected. I mean, I can definitely see and have heard that, international production, also kind of took a hit because of the strikes, because people are like, well, I don't want to get on SAG's bad side and, I might want to work with them one day.
Yeah, no, it's a good growth here that we're seeing across Europe. Hopefully we can see those results sustain themselves throughout 2024. And domestically, a couple of new cinema openings to get excited about out in Utah. The Larry H. Miller Megaplex circuit expanding their cinema entertainment center concept that is called the Larry H. Miller Sports Plus Entertainment. That's incorporating the Megaplex movie theater brand with a couple of the attractions that we're used to seeing in family entertainment centers. A number of locations scheduled to open in 2024 and 2025 in a number of cities across Utah. We've got cities and towns like Centerville, Vineyard, and St. George in Utah having some of these cinema entertainment centers coming to their hometowns. A great evolution in terms of how we understand movies and movie going as a destination for families, as an affordable entertainment option for people around the country. This coming to Utah from the leading exhibitor in the state.
Yeah. And Daniel, speaking of those family entertainment centers, it rolls around every 3 months, quarterly earnings call period. You can tune in to our episode next Thursday where we go over the updates from various publicly traded companies who have filed their Q4 and end of year 2023 results. Cinemark is one of those companies, so obviously I'll be going over what came out in that call next week. But just because we're talking about cinema chains adding family entertainment centers, they do plan to introduce two concepts. And a quote from Sean Gamble, CEO of Cinemark, says, "We reactivated our new build development pipeline and added a new family entertainment center concept to our array of theater designs, with plans to open 2 of these new concepts by the end of the year." So Cinemark getting in on that as well. I believe they've been in on it before in partnership with different parties, but definitely big news on the FEC front.
Absolutely. And rounding out our conversation here this week before we go into our feature interview, this happened right as you stopped recording last week's episode with Chad Kennerk, where you went over the trailers from the Super Bowl. Rebecca, the viewership number figures are in for Marvel's Deadpool and Wolverine trailer, scoring the highest number of trailer views of all time within the first 24 hours of launch. This movie, even though it's rated R, is quickly becoming the most anticipated movie of the year. I think it is a lot of our picks for the highest potential grossing movie of 2024.
Yeah, I mean, and the trailer definitely leaned into the whole this is R-rated and it's Disney, so it seems like, often we talk about an R rating, certainly for a superhero, for a comic book film, being more of a potential detriment than something that would help the film, but that is definitely not the case with Deadpool. It's leaning into the fact that it's now Disney. Yeah, they're looking at 365 million views in the first 24 hours, that's a big number. I mean, geez.
Great figures. The last time we heard of figures like this in terms of a trailer launch was for Spider-Man No Way Home. We have the same amount of buzz now for this title, scheduled for July 28th. more or less the same corridor that Barbie and Oppenheimer used to launch their respective theatrical releases. I'm excited to see how this opens later on this summer.
It's an interesting dichotomy. I mean, we saw how much money an R-rated movie like Oppenheimer could make. Now let's see how much an R-rated movie like Deadpool can make. Two completely opposite ends of the
very different
films. Spectrum.
Yeah. Very, very different films. Well, thank you very much, Rebecca. Your voice is right down to its last 10%. I know you're feeling under the weather, but thank you for joining us today. And now, without any further ado, after the break, my interview with three of the engineers that brought to life RGB laser projection technology. They are going to be winning an Academy Award for technical innovation at tomorrow's ceremony in Los Angeles. That's coming up after the break. And we are back here on the Box Office Podcast with the three Academy Award winners from Barco Cinema, winning that award for the technical merits in bringing the innovations from the Barco RGB laser to cinemas near you, because it's a technology that's really expanding everywhere around the world. Gentlemen, I'm going to ask you guys to quickly introduce yourselves and your position at Barco.
Okay, I'm Wouter D'Oosterlinck. I'm currently VP R&D for cinema, so heading all the cinema development related to projectors and image processing devices for the cinema industry.
I am Goran Stojmenovik. I am currently R&D director in Barco Projection. And at the time of RGB laser development, I was a product manager for those projectors.
And I'm Peter Janssens, Senior Expert Optical Design and responsible for the design of the laser light sources of Barco's projectors.
Wonderful. And as we said in the introduction, you guys were integral in bringing this technology to cinemas. It's wonderful to have laser just be a technology that keeps on expanding, it keeps on reaching more viewers. I think it's good for the moviegoer in terms of the image quality, and it's great for cinemas in terms of energy and cost savings. We've been seeing that across the years. But let's get started with the beginning of this technology. Of course, we do the transition to digital cinema. Xenon lamps are out there. It took a long time for that transition to happen, and it seems like Xenon is doing fine, but there's a potential for more. Can you tell us about your role in the development of RGB laser? Let's start with Wouter. How did you get involved, and what was your role in bringing this together?
Oh, I was already working for Summit in cinema when that cool new project started into our central lab within Barco called laser projection. So Peter, who can tell you more about it, was already working for quite a bit longer on that. But then this project really started, and the idea was to make a killer product, a 60,000 lumen laser projector to showcase what we could all do with laser. So make the brightest, meanest projector out there, which we then showcased in Galveston in 2012 to an expert cinema crowd. So it took a lot of work with talking with laser suppliers, but also on the legal side, on which Goran can probably tell you more about, to get laser accepted into the market, not just by exhibitors, but also by FDA, for instance, which was a crucial part into getting where we are right now with, as you said, a lot of laser projectors out there and ever growing.
So Peter, tell me about the start of this. When Wouter gets involved, there's already a project in place. What were the origins?
So it all started about in 2007. There was a starting up in Barco. Projectors were still using lamps, sometimes LED, but mostly lamps all over the place. And there was all these new concepts were flying around that a laser would be the ultimate light source for projectors, bringing many benefits, and there were a lot of promises. So a small project was started within Barco to explore all these promises, where we can make them come true, or maybe in some points, there are some limitations in the technology that we don't know yet. So all this needed to be explored. And for that purpose, we started with a very small scale laser projector, just in the lab on an optical breadboard, to explore everything that comes together with laser projection.
It's wonderful to see how this project came together leading up to that 2012 demo in Galveston, Texas. Goran, on your end, when did you get involved in the project, and what was your role?
So I started in Barco Cinema at around the Galveston demo, so late 2011. and took over the project as a product manager in 2012-13. And one of my first targets by my boss was get accepted by Peter and Wouter. And I hope I achieved that goal. But in the meantime, we also know that we achieved a lot of laser projection. And my role in the project was basically to steer the development in terms of making the right technology decisions in accordance with what the market wants and what the market needs. So there was a lot of discussions with the market, with the studios, with the cinemas at that moment in time, and we were trying to figure out, test different ideas, different hypotheses, and different products, and in accordance with the market. So my role was to guide that.
And it looks like it was smooth sailing to get the technology over the line. But of course, every time you bring in a new technology, it's not as simple as just wishing it into existence. Let's go over some of the difficult moments and some of the high points in making sure the laser technology worked. Let's start with Peter. From the beginning of the process, what were some of your best memories, some of those high points? And then if you can follow up with some of the difficulties that you guys had along the way and how you fixed them.
Yeah, one of the high points I would say was just that I really like technology and being able to play around with optics, with lasers, and to try to make a lab tabletop mount projector that was actually delivering an image onto the screen. That was very exciting for me. Of course, as it goes with any new technology, this very basic projector revealed some challenges as well. So we saw that the image quality was not what we actually wanted it to be. So it was due to the fact that we did not have the right lasers. They were not available at that point in time. So there was still some work to be done on that. Also, a disappointment a bit was on the cost of the lasers at that point in time. So these lasers were very expensive, and so that was also hampering us to bring a product on the market.
And Wouter, on your end, what were some of those difficulties? How did you get over them, and some of those high points in getting the project over the line?
Well, I think on high points, it was a very fun time. We were exploring new technologies with a very small dedicated team. So, with a clear goal, be the first to bring this to the market at a very high brightness. And then showcasing that in Galveston, as I said before, was really the high point of that first stage. But of course, if you talk about the brightest projector in the world, it also means that there's a lot of light that needs to go through your system. So, on multiple cases, we of course burned some stuff in the projector, giving it an.
It wouldn't be fun if there wasn't burning
indeed,
of stuff.
indeed.
That's completely fine.
So we burned and crashed during the development, but then of course also tried to find solutions for those difficulties, and in the end we managed to do that. So which actually was a big energy booster in the end.
I can imagine that being a nice bump as you reach the finish line. Goran, on your end, what were some of those high points, some difficult moments as you begin to develop this technology?
When I think back at that period of time, to me, it's a heroic time. It was almost mythical. It was a time when we had a lot of unexplored domain and territory, whether it's technology or marketing or image quality or regulatory and so on. We had laser enthusiasts. We had people evangelizing the laser technology to studios or cinemas alike. So it was really a time of heroics and a lot of highlights and also some sometimes less pleasant moments, of course. I think what I definitely remember from the positive side are the gasps of people seeing RGB laser projection on a big screen for the first time. Going from lamp to this type of very bright, very excellent 3D, uniform, stable image, no flicker, all that stuff really left people breathless. And for me, that was the pinnacle of that period. That's why I kept doing it.
Yeah, I think once audiences can see that difference between xenon and laser, they understand what the technology means in terms of movie going. Now, Goran mentioned some of these special qualities that RGB laser can bring. Peter and Wouter, can you guys expand on that? Why do you believe that RGB laser technology is so special and groundbreaking in terms of projection?
Well, first and foremost, of course, I think the color gamut that you can obtain, so more vivid, more bright colors, make it really exceptional. Next to that, the brightness levels we can achieve. I think back in the days, 3D was pretty dim, coming from a xenon-based projector. Now with the amount of light we can throw onto a screen and also keep it stable over time, which is difficult to do with xenon lamps, makes that you can get an overall better experience throughout the life of your projector. That's of course on the viewer side, as you mentioned in the beginning. Also on the exhibitor side, power consumption, ease of use, no lamp replacements needed anymore, are also key factors in why RGB laser is superior to xenon.
Absolutely. And Peter, on your end, what did you think was that impact, not only to audiences, but also to filmmakers and creatives? We heard that Wouter saying the digital 3D technology, it's a before and after when you talk about the impact that laser can bring to these projections.
Yes, indeed, there is certainly a big change from xenon to laser. And before the Galveston demo, we had another demo of a smaller scale laser projector that we did to the creative community of in Hollywood, and it was very interesting to see how curious people were to see what the advantages of laser, what it would bring for them, how they could use it for their upcoming releases and so on. That was a really nice experience for me to actually get into contact with these creative people of Hollywood, because I had seen many movies before, but you never see the persons behind the movies. I mean, the technical persons behind the movies.
And how did they react? I'm really curious because it's one thing, a moviegoer that can be surprised and has a pleasant experience at the movies, but it's a completely other thing when you're presenting in front of that creative community in Hollywood. They have expectations. It's a more demanding audience, maybe a more difficult demo to convince that community than anyone else. Can you go over what those reactions were?
Well, one of the main points that they were interested at was the possibilities of the wider color gamut. We were also showing, and that is also with our laser projectors, we are achieving a much better image quality in terms of uniformity and contrast to them. So they really wanted to know how this comes as a benefit for them.
Yeah, I can see that being a main point here in bringing that technology forward. Goran, do you remember those early demos? Not only in Galveston, but the earlier demo with the creative community in Hollywood. What were some of those reactions that stood out for you?
As Peter said, a lot of people were very curious. I remember a time when we set up one of those early proof of concepts, that we call it, technology demos in Burbank. And we invited a lot of colorists, a lot of people around, just to to compare it with lamp-based projectors, to lay their hands on it, do a bit of color grading, and so on. Those were really exciting times for everybody. People just love to play with this new technology, and what they really wanted to do is see how far they can push it, how far they can push the technology in terms of colors, in terms of image depth, and other parameters. And I must say that those were the early days, but even afterwards, with our finished product, we also went and installed it in a number of high-profile Hollywood studios. And that relationship has just made our products better. Because, as you said, those people are demanding. The colorists, people around post-production are really demanding. They will take around the technology from inside out. They would like to understand how it works. And in this interaction, they just helped us make the projectors or our technology better. So along every axis.
Was that the moment that you realized, Goran, that you guys had cracked laser projection? Or when was it when you personally realized, okay, this isn't a proof of concept anymore. Laser is a reality. When did that happen for you?
For me, it happened when we had the demonstrations to the cinemas. to the cinemas. So one thing is to have a very exciting technology where everybody loves and they would like to play with it and look at it, which is really great. But you only crack laser projection when you get acceptance from the cinemas. And for me, that was the moment, and that has happened, I think, around 2014 with the launch of our first projector. So seeing them, operating them, real scale, real time on a larger scale in different cinemas in the world, for me, that was the moment.
Yeah, I remember that 2014 demo. I was there. I remember as early as CinemaCon 2015, 2014, Cine Europe, when I'm seeing the rollout of this technology, and it's a really obvious before and after. Peter, on your end, you've been involved here from the very beginning. When did you finally stop sweating it and say, like, okay, there's nothing to worry about here. This is the future of moviegoing?
Well, it's not one step, I would say, for me, but after the demo that I mentioned in Hollywood, I started to understand, this is something that people are really interested in. And then with the Galveston demo, just seeing the audience, like with their mouth open, watching the ultra bright images on the screen with the perfect image quality, then I knew, okay, this is the real thing that we need to develop and that we have to bring to the market. And then just there was still one small step to be taken. That was to enable also the 6P 3D, and that was then yet a next small scale prototype. We didn't prototype that on a 60,000 lumen projector. This was a small prototype, but when that was done, I knew that this would become a killer product.
And it certainly has, as you see the adoption of cinemas ever since the launch of this technology. Wouter, on your end, when did it become real for you? When did you realize that laser was here to stay?
Well, internally in Barco, we were already convinced, of course, that it was going to be here to stay. So we invested for multiple years on this technology. And I really launched the product in 2014. But it really came public when we installed our first units very close by, actually, to the Kortrijk facility. And I really got to see The Hobbit real life in a big room with a lot of people, perfect sound, perfect image, and then that really made it really real. And after that, orders kept on coming in, and we kept on developing the next generations of laser projectors.
Yeah, and we're seeing those generations continue to evolve, different classes of laser projectors at different price points, right? Those early concerns of cost, now not really so much of a concern. You have your entry-level projectors and then your dual stack projectors that can handle premium auditoriums. A diverse product line that has evolved in the last 10 years is premium cinema technology, and also a step up for standard technology. So obviously, congratulations for this great development of the technology. But a bigger congratulations is in store, because you're getting recognized not only for your contributions, but the contributions of your entire team at Barco that helped bring this technology. The Academy granting you a Technical Innovation Award here at the Academy Awards. What does this mean to you guys to get this recognition from the Hollywood community?
Yeah, I must say I'm very proud to get this recognition, of course. We have spent with the whole team, for years to develop laser projectors with the right image quality and so on, and then to be honored by the Academy. That is, of course, it gives a great feeling, and I'm very happy about that, of course. Yeah.
How about you guys, Goran? What was your reaction to this award?
Likewise, it was the day that we got note that we received the award. I was having a birthday party at my brother-in-law's house. I got a text and I read my email, and I just couldn't believe it. We know it was in the running. We were nominated probably a year and a half before that, but a year and a half passes by, you completely forget about this thing, and suddenly it is there, right? And so it was really, really unreal at first. Then we started chatting amongst each other to understand, okay, hey guys, we won an Academy Award. And then it started dawning upon us, all the memories come back from that period of time that we discussed about, and also thinking about good things with a lot of our colleagues that worked on the project. We had a lot of projects since then, also on RGB projection and other laser projection in Barco. A lot of those people are still in Barco, and we feel honored, but we also want to involve everybody else. So we're planning a bit of a drink and celebration for everybody involved in the project soon.
And how about you, Wouter? What was your reaction to winning this award? What does it mean to you?
Well, it means a lot, of course. On a personal level, it's a great honor that we get bestowed upon us. But also for Barco, it's a big testament to what we can do as an innovative company in the cinema industry. I got the news on a Friday evening when I was relaxing with some friends. I got the email in, of course, couldn't stay quiet there as well. So I had to share the news, both to my friends as within Barco. And then the whole weekend long, I got texts, I got messages from colleagues at Barco saying, yeah, this is great. We need to celebrate. So it was really, really, really great and a big honor to get this award.
Well, congratulations to the three of you and to your entire team over at Barco for this award. A great recognition. But of course, beyond the recognition is the technology that we now have in our screens that moviegoers might notice, but might not know all the work that came in to make it a reality. Thank you so much for your efforts.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you again to our guests from Barco Cinema. The Box Office Podcast was produced and edited by Box Office Pro in collaboration with Record Edit Podcast. Don't forget to tune in next week. We will be back with Rebecca Pahle and I going over some of the quarterly earnings results from exhibitors so far this year. We will have exclusive interviews with View's Tim Richards and with Cineplex's Ellis Jacob. That is in next week's version of this podcast. Thanks again for listening. We'll talk to you again next week.